this area, right? So we got quite a long ways to go. So we're definitely getting 2-to-1 risk reward as it stands, right? We're risking about 20 cents to make a dollar. So that looks pretty good. I'm definitely going to be watching this. And let's see if we can get that basically tennis ball bounce back here. So tidy little AMD trade here this morning. Not a bad thesis. Kind of a bit of a stressful trade. Took a long time to get going, but all in all, small win. Setting everything up, right? See if we can get that correct price reaction inside this zone. Maybe I can even get like an overreaction flush to take advantage of, but gonna watch this carefully. Targeting like $83. Looks like it's defending pretty well here. And so it's getting like 5-to-1 risk reward. That's pretty gosh darn good. Maybe looking for an entry here in a second. Try to get down, see what the reaction is if we make new lows. Then if I can get like a little bit of an overreaction flush or the correct bounce, that's gonna be my entry trigger. Okay, so still watching very closely here. Being very patient, right? There's no reason to overtrade this. No reason to force a decision. Okay, so there's those lows, right? So watching closely. So can I maybe buy an overreaction flush? And I'm going to give this a dollar stop loss. So looking to enter here, guys. Looking to enter here. And I am in. Average price, $81.69. $81.69 on this AMD. Call it stop at 81. So watching this back, I'm not super stoked with my entry here. I think I waited for a good overreaction flush, but I didn't necessarily get that immediate tennis ball bounce back I normally wait for. So I think I FOMO'd in just a little bit. And let's see if this thing can now break out higher, give me a little bit of a bounce. Definitely seems like I bought the right overreaction flush. So a pretty gosh darn good entry. Here we go. See if this thing can creep up just a bit more. Thought I had that for a sec. So yeah, I'm definitely putting too much stock in sort of the violence of the flush versus the actual correct price reaction that I'm looking for in my entry spot. So I kind of put my blinders on and was only looking for one thing when I should have been looking for two. Okay, looking good, looking really good. See if we can keep getting a bit more follow through here, a little bit of more separation from our entry price. There we go, starting to get it, right? So I'm looking to take a little bit off in about 10 cents. About that 81.90 area if I can get it. And then this volume on the pullback, although it's decreasing, it's definitely pretty strong volume. So maybe that's another indication that, you know, bears are probably a bit stronger than I gave them credit for. Does feel a bit like a fight here, though. Fake out lower. Yeah, I still think I'm okay. Really good entry here. That's what's making this trade a lot easier. Okay, so I'm going to look to take some off in 10 cents again, right, if I can get it. So this is probably the flush I should have waited to see kind of develop, right? So I've got a pretty decent kind of, you know, buffer here. But if I wanted that perfect entry to make this trade stress-free and then get most of that entry, or trying to get all this profit, I basically needed to have waited for this sort of flush here. So instead of forcing this, instead of, kind of jumping in right when I wanted to enter this trade, definitely needed to have been a little bit more patient and just waited for a further pullback and then place my stop loss sort of at that $81 mark. So again, right, stop loss was in the right spot, but my entry was kind of crappy. And yeah, definitely that led to me making some mistakes further on in the play. Okay, giving this a sec. I don't know if I like this reaction too much. Indexes seem to be bouncing a little bit. Just don't like that we got like a few cents away from the profit target and couldn't get there, and then now it made lower lows. Doesn't feel like the healthiest of reactions, but 5 cents from the entry price. So let's see if this thing can keep going here. Should have seen that strength maybe step in a little bit more immediately. So then the reason, right, why that strength didn't step in immediately, why we weren't able to get that fill at that sort of initial take profit target, right, that 81.90, was because the selling volume on that pullback candle was probably just a little bit too aggressive. So I needed to see further sort of exhaustion from bears before I could have gotten the perfect entry on this pullback. Don't like that AMD is behaving differently than the indexes here now. I would have expected to see maybe a little bit more of a consistent narrative. Back in business. Right, I entered in at about 9:48 a.m. It's now 9:52 and some change, right? So I'm spending way too much time in the red on this play. My strongest trades I'm green on right away. At this point, right, I should be kind of questioning myself. Is my thesis correct? If my entry timing is this wrong? And so that starts to create a little bit of like kind of doubt, right? Which then sort of drains that mental capital. So bad entry timing or bad entry execution kind of compounded to further problems here throughout this trade. And buying those overreaction flushes is thought to be perfect on. But again, right, back to entry price just about 3-4 cents away. So let's see if this thing can go. I mean, I still feel pretty decent about this. I haven't given up, but those trades that you aren't correct on right away, or you're correct on a little bit and then it doesn't want to give you separation from your entry, it's just a little bit more nervy. Okay, come on, AMD. Let's go here. Need to start moving, otherwise I'm going to get out and just stop myself out basically for a scratch play. Okay, so again, right, about 10 cents away from my first profit target. Let's see if we can get it. 81.90 is my first profit target. I don't like that very much. Find support though, right? It finds support again there at that like 81.60 shelf, kind of something along those lines. But now my entry is, 5 minutes late, right? Or 5 minutes too early by the looks of it on this move. So what else is wrong, right? Pretty temperamental. Couple times now. It's been like 10 cents from the first profit target. It can't reach it, and then it pulls back down towards sort of the low of this range. I don't know if that feels super super strong. That doesn't feel great. $81.50, $81.57. Kind of debating cutting it here. See if we can get back to entry price, maybe. But I just don't like. I should have been green right away. And I'm just like struggling right at that entry price, right? He keeps kind of bouncing below. Can't get to that risk free. So it's a little bit of a more draining trade. Yeah, I think your analysis is kind of spot on, Michael, to a certain extent. Like I'm getting a little bit of cooperation here. And I bought a decent enough pullback where I have a little bit of flexibility. And not trading options certainly helps in this context right now. But maybe my entry wasn't conservative enough. So if it just wants to keep kind of doing these like little lower lows and then, you know, bouncing back up, that's kind of a pain in the ass. And I've got quite a bit of buffer still on my stop loss, but I don't know if I need to let it go that big. All right, there's another lower low. This again, right? Like it's a little bit of a mixed bag here. 10 a.m. We get this thing to run. So now I've made like 3 lower lows. I've been in this trade for 12 minutes. Like the mental capital is just drained at this point. All because my entry timing was lazy. So I know I kind of, in the moment, I think I kind of felt like good about my entry. But in hindsight, I'm really disappointed with it. Yeah, I'm thinking about closing here too. Got a few, still a few cents I'm willing to give it. Well, I like this. It taking too long. It keeps making those lower lows. Maybe have a bit of the hopium with this trade now. There's a little bit in this no man's land here. Nice work, Michael. Nice work. Yeah, this move is pretty annoying, Callum. Gosh, I'm like 13 cents from my entry price, right? So it's hard to be... feel like I'm super offside here. And maybe just a little bit early, right? I thought I had a really good entry. But yeah, I mean, it was like a couple cents away from getting that first take profit, and then it sold off. That's the difference here. Trade's definitely been made easier by trading shares. I know that much. Tesla making lower lows. Indexes just look like they want to cooperate. Really, or was I just wrong? And I guess what's the difference, right? Yeah, it doesn't. Well, things can sell off on a lack of liquidity too, so I'm not going to put too much stock into that at the moment. So if you're watching now, well done. This should have been where I probably got the entry, right? So we had that sort of low vol doji, then kind of looked to buy in on this sort of pullback here. That would have been the perfect entry instead of where I entered 20 minutes earlier. No, not really, because I think Tesla's still very much just consolidating inside this zone. So until it gives me a trend breakout or a trend breakdown, the intraday short-term candles don't really mean too much to me. Remember, Michael, we always need a setup trigger and then the candles and volume to tell us why we should be looking at that setup trigger. So I don't want to be seeing the right candle and then working backwards to find that reason to trade. I want to have the reason to trade and then get the right candle to take advantage of that narrative. I'm honestly annoyed with my entry here. I should have done better. So that's going to bother me a lot on this trade. That should have been the spot. You know, buy that fake out, have that 25-cent stop towards low of day, 30-cent stop towards low of day. And then you're getting like 6 to 1, 7 to 1 towards for that profit target. So that would have been the perfect A plus trade. I just didn't have the patience to do it. Yeah, I regret that quite a bit. Oh, I feel really stuck here. Might be the worst feeling to have in a trade where you're like stuck between a decision. I'll give it one last chance here. There goes SPY, right? So that maybe is helping my narrative a little bit. But I'm like 15 minutes wrong on my entry, right? So that's what's giving me the lack of confidence. It's just well within my risk reward zone, like just hanging out right below my entry price. I'm gonna give it a time stop here instead of a. I mean, I do have a physical stop, but I'm gonna have a time stop here. So if I'm not green, we'll call it by 10:15. I will be getting out. Again, index is breaking out. Like, I feel like I have the right thesis, but my timing was a little bit wrong. It obviously makes maybe my thesis, like the potential for my thesis to be wrong, probably higher. But we're back at entry price, right? So I'm hesitant to be hyper aggressive. Fuck. Give me this move. Okay, give me some separation here. Come on. Got to like 871, I think I saw. Q's going. See, everything's telling me the same narrative, and then it's the AMD's not giving me the extension. Okay, let's see if this thing can go here. It needs to move on this candle or I'm getting out. Okay, again, 10 cents away from my profit target. Can it get there? Been a pain in the ass trade. Okay, 5, 7, 8 cents, 4 cents. Looking to take some off here in a second. Oh, I didn't get a fill. Are you kidding me? Oh, that's a gut pain. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say that word. Fuck, that was sloppy of me. Okay, so I'm going to try to take some off here again. I'm going to take off more than I was going to originally. Okay, I'm closing some here. I should have taken some off at that 81.90, and I didn't get a fill. Okay, so stop loss is at my break-even point here now. So it's like 81.50-ish, something along those lines. Closed half my position at that 81, what was it, 83, I think it was. 81.82. I just don't like how it's misbehaving. So I'm going to lock in some profit, get to that risk-free, and let's see if it can go. But yeah, kind of a pain in the ass trade. Yeah, just spent too long waiting for this thing to go green, or I couldn't even have the patience to wait for my sort of profit target. So I just wanted to get to risk-free and stop having a kind of a bag to hold. So yeah, not the best. Stop loss. I'm going to push it up now, 81.72. And now we're kind of running away with this thing a little bit, right? So, okay, back to business, de-risked. 30 seconds later, it breaks out, of course. But that's okay. I'll take this, right? So I'm going to take off a little bit more here in a second at like that $82 area. Right, so that's going to be in a couple pennies here. I'm going to take off about half of what I have left. I'm going to be left with about a quarter of my original position. And I'm taking some off, trying to take some off here. Again, didn't get a fucking fill. Sorry. Been a few little irritants in this trade. Twice I haven't gotten a fill when it touches the price. And maybe entry price wasn't as great as it could have been. I feel like that's like a strikeout of mistakes. I'm going to close out. I'm all out here. All out, average exit price 81.93. But I honestly on this trade, it feels like okay, I've had a couple times where it's like gone to my take profit and I couldn't get a fill. That's annoying, right? Couple times where you know, maybe my entry price, like the stress about this was a little bit frustrating, so not interested in that. I'm just out. I feel like it tested my patience a few times. If it runs, whatever. I don't care at this point. I just don't really feel like it was behaving the way I expected, so I'm just gonna lock in small profit and move on. It's a $140 win, so it's just not a trade to like brag about or anything along those lines. It's more of I'm just kind of okay. It didn't behave the way I wanted. My entry timing wasn't maybe a little bit perfect. So at this point, maybe I have to kind of admit that, you know, getting this big follow through needs to be a little bit lucky. And once I accept that, then I have to sort of also accept that I'm no longer really trading my thesis, or my thesis was incorrect. So if I can just walk out with a small P&L win, I can get out. So, okay, I'll take it, right? Win for win. Win's a win. But I don't think it behaved the way I wanted it to. So I'm not going to emotionally hold on to this any longer. And I'll take it, right? Small little win. Maybe I left some shekels on the table. That's fine. I'm not going to beat myself up over that. I'm more interested in, yeah, following my plan as well as possible. I don't feel like I really got that that price action. Like, it was definitely a little bit testy. And so not the easiest of plays. Hopefully those of you who are in options are doing okay. Not the easiest one. So in the end, I think I just kind of caught myself going on tilt a little bit, right? You know, when I couldn't get that fill there at that $92 mark, you kind of hear me exclaim or kind of get a little bit annoyed. And for me, that was sort of a strikeout of emotional triggers, I think is what I'm going to call it. right? Where, okay, I had a couple times where the fill wasn't perfect. I spent way too much time with sort of an incorrect entry. And so at that point, I was willing to admit that I was maybe not perfect on this play and needed to adjust and do something better. So, okay, lock in a small win, walk away with the green day. Don't sort of let a few kind of lucky mistakes turn into sort of, really big mistakes. And then ultimately, can live to fight another day. So, not the best trade. Happy with the thesis, unhappy with the execution. The execution timing made it much more challenging for me to execute my thesis as well as I could. And I need to be more cautious or more sort of diligent when I'm looking at that volume on that pullback, just to make sure that it isn't actually showing me a sign of relative strength to the downside.